Welcome everybody to Sin City Living. My name is Jason and I'll be bringing you today's episode. As always, please hit those like and subscribe buttons. We have a ton of content for you guys coming out every single week, every single day generally. Occasionally miss a day like I did during the rodeo that is still ongoing right now. And I hope all of our patrons out there are appreciating the patron-only exclusive videos we're putting out with the dice class, putting one out every couple of weeks. And if you're curious about that, go ahead and check the description down below. Once I get this whole live stream thing figured out, I'm probably going to do a live stream on the patron site as well. One on the regular site, one on the patron site. I do have the new computer for it. Theoretically, I have everything ready. I'm just so busy currently with this rodeo. And one of our fans asked a question a little while back about ways to tip us, to show appreciation to us without having to sign up as one of our patrons. And at the time we did not have any way of doing it, but I have managed now to get us signed up with a site called Buy Me a Coffee. As I'm sure some of you guys have noticed from some of our videos, Louie and I are both pretty heavy coffee drinkers. So if you're curious about that as well, go ahead and check down below in the description as well. We would definitely appreciate any cups of coffee you're willing to pick up for us. And don't forget to email us with any strategies, questions, suggestions, anything at all. We love shooting those videos for you guys. I actually haven't gotten a new email in about 2 weeks. And also, don't forget, anybody that may be interested in one of the small Sin City Living neons that we have, just email us that as well, sincitylivingLV@gmail.com. Otherwise, I'm going to go ahead and get into today's episode. So for today's video, we're doing another episode of Crossfire. We've got...
I'm Louie.
Louie here. And once again, we are answering an email that was sent to us. This one, I believe, comes from... Yep, this one comes from Jeff. And Jeff asks a...
My name's Jeff.
...plethora of questions, a veritable cornucopia. So we're going to do our best to plug through these questions. So, question number one. Before the lockdown, do you think there was a shortage of dealers, a surplus of dealers, or was it just about the right amount based on the number of properties?
Ooh, I like this question.
I like it too. Here is the answer I would give. I think just the right amount. I think that over the years, Vegas has just reached an equilibrium between dealing schools and the properties. There's always new dealers coming out of the dealing schools.
No.
They're able to get into the break-in places. There's always break-in dealers moving up to tier 2 casinos,
Yep.
tier 2 dealers moving to tier 3, and so on and so forth. So we've had this constant flow to where there hasn't been this, oh my God, there's not enough dealers, all these properties are running short.
No.
In the same token, there hasn't been this problem of a whole bunch of dealers out of work before the lockdown.
Right.
So I think that Vegas kind of hit an equilibrium as far as dealing schools, dealing students, and the properties.
That's a good movie.
But that's just my impression of it. But I mean, really, before the pandemic, if somebody was a dealer, was a trained dealer, or experienced dealer, and was not employed, then that had, I promise you, that had nothing to do with there not being any jobs available, and everything to do with them not being employable for whatever reason.
Yeah.
Because while there's always students coming out, there's always people retiring,
Yep.
moving, getting married, quitting.
Something's always going on.
Yeah, there's always people leaving, there's always people coming in. I mean, how many dealing schools do you think there are in this town? Like, I've never actually looked. Off the top of my head, I could think of 4 or 5, maybe 6.
I'd say there's probably like maybe 10 to 15.
Yeah, it's probably 10 or 15, because a lot of them get real small, and
Well, the UNLV also has,
yeah.
and then CSN, they have it too.
That's true. So yeah, there's probably maybe a dozen dealing schools, although the top ones probably don't pump out more than the busiest, best dealing school probably doesn't pump out more than 20 to 30 graduates a month.
No.
I mean, if you think about it, how many celebrations do we have every week? Maybe 3, 4. A great week, maybe 5 people got hired. A lot of times it kind of ebbed and flowed. Like nobody would get a job one week, and then the next week there was a hiring fair.
Everybody got
8
one.
people got jobs. So, yeah, there's probably about a dozen dealing schools, and the thing is, I would say if anybody else were to to open a dealing school, I don't think we'd suddenly have more dealers coming into play. I think they would just cannibalize a little bit from the other places.
Yeah.
I mean, I really do think before the pandemic, Vegas kind of hit an equilibrium. After the pandemic, a lot of people unemployed, but it's really bounced back with the new properties that have opened.
Yeah.
And so now it's pretty much back to normal.
Yeah, we had three properties open up.
Yeah.
In this year alone, we had
Resorts World,
Circa, and
Virgin.
Yeah.
Okay, so as far as we know, are there a lot of dealers out of work? Not anymore.
No.
Not anymore. If they're out of work, it's because
It's on them.
Yeah, it's entirely on them. Either they're not trying, they're not applying, or they have bad attitudes. I mean, that's the best way I can put it.
I know a couple casinos that are starting to up their wages to get more dealers.
More experienced dealers,
Right.
yeah.
More dealers, more floor people. So yeah.
In fact, I would say that's probably the biggest shortage is floors because
Yes.
because a lot of the really good dealers don't want to move up because typically when you become a floor, you make less money.
Right. Depending on where you go. Right.
Yeah. So yeah, they have difficulty getting their best people to move up. Next question: what do you think about MGM buying the Cosmo, or at least the operations portion of it? I think it's fun. I just think it's amusing because they sell property, they buy a property. They sell a property, they buy a property. To me, the stripper, all the casinos out here in Vegas, they're basically like baseball cards that all these companies are just passing around.
Yeah.
Honestly, I have no real thoughts about the Cosmo being bought by MGM. Every time one of these properties gets bought and either rebranded or kept under the same name and just different operator,
It happens
nothing
all the
actually
time.
changes. Nothing changes for the dealers. Nothing changes for the, maybe some dealers leave, some dealers get hired, maybe
Right.
they remodel and open up some new restaurants or something. But overall, nothing changes.
What it really affects is the people who are the casino managers, the backup casino manager, the shift managers, and then like the upper middle management people. That's who gets affected by it, because when that happens, Cosmo's people get swept away, and then MGM brings their people in. That's what happens on that part. The dealers, unless they're already working for an MGM property, it does not affect them in any way. They might get a little procedural change on a couple things, but for the most part, they're going to be the same.
It's just life moves on.
Right.
When it says, it's not official yet, but it sounds like a done deal. It is pretty much a done deal. Now, with all the regulatory BS, they say this could take a year or more for the sale to actually finalize.
Right.
Next question. Do you think eventually Caesars on the east side and MGM on the west side will end up owning most of the strip properties, and do you think that would be good or bad for Vegas?
Well, they're going to go into a beef, east side, west side, man. Like it's going to be like the
West Side
90s.
connection.
Yeah, it's going to be like the 90s, Tupac and Biggie all
Bow
over
down
again.
when I come to your town.
Well, east side or west side? Which side are we talking about?
So, west side?
West side.
I could actually quote the entire was it West Side Pledge Allegiance or whatever from West Side Connection. Anyway, first part of the question, I will say no. Do I think Caesars and MGM will eventually own the majority of most of the strip properties? I mean, they kind of, the major ones they kind of already do, but no. I don't.
No.
I don't think gaming would allow it, and I don't think they would be interested. I mean, look at Las Vegas Sands. They have Las Vegas in their freaking name, and they just divested themselves of all their Las Vegas properties so that they could focus on overseas gambling.
Right.
So, no, Vegas is a destination spot, and it's really never going to be replaced as a destination spot. But there's so much other gambling opportunities out there, and from a business standpoint, just because someplace may not be the same destination doesn't mean it's not profitable. So, all these companies, they're always looking at where else they can be besides Vegas, and they're always looking at their properties. That's why you see so many sold and passed around.
Yeah.
And so, no, I don't think that those two are going to end up owning the majority of the strip. I think if that were to happen, if that were to somehow get through gaming and regulatory, I think they'd end up selling them.
Well, not only that, there's some big hitters on the north end of the strip too. They got the Venetian and Palazzo. Who owns them?
I do not remember.
I don't remember either. But there's no way they're gonna sell. I think they just sold not that long ago to somebody else. But I don't think they'd sell to MGM or Caesars. And then you have the Wynn properties. I don't think they're going to sell the Caesars or MGM. And then Treasure Island, they might.
They might, but they might not get the price they're looking for.
And then you got Resorts World. You know,
Yeah.
I don't think they're going to be selling anytime soon.
But I would have thought that about Cosmo 10 years ago.
Yeah, well, we'll see how Resorts World does in 10 years' time.
Yeah.
We'll see how they do.
And I mean, the strip is always evolving. It's always evolving.
Everything's always changing. I mean, how many times is a casino getting bought and sold, the name changes, and then all the time. All the time.
Nothing changes.
Nothing changes.
And for the second part of the question, do I think it'd be good or bad for Vegas? Again, I don't think it'll happen.
No.
It's not going to happen.
Life moves on.
Do these property sales get the attention of casino employees, especially ones working at a property being sold? Yes and no. Kind of like we already discussed. If you're a dealer, you generally don't care. You know there's going to be some procedural things coming along. If you are a floor, you also probably don't care. If you are a pit, you might get a little bit nervous, in case worrying about them bringing in their own people,
right? And
worrying about what procedural changes are going to occur. And because when you're a dealer, even just a floor, when you're at the lower end of suited up, if there's a procedure and you make a mistake, it's generally not going to cost you your job as long as you own up to it and you hey, I messed up, show me what I did wrong, I'm sorry. Now if you try and cover it up or hide it, that's different. But once you get up to like pit and above, these procedures get major and they most definitely can cost you your job, assuming you even keep it. Once you get beyond that, you start getting into like director of table games or casino managers,
hiring
managers,
schedulers, all kinds of
stuff like that. Then yes, it's most definitely noticed, because especially like a casino manager at a property that's being sold, if they hear about a property being sold, they are probably starting to put out their resume.
Yeah, because they already know
they're gonna get replaced.
Right,
it's almost a guarantee. And the problem is, once you get up to that level, it's extremely difficult to go somewhere else. And as a casino manager, there's only one casino manager per property, and they're already staffed up. So if you're a casino manager,
they might have an assistant casino manager.
Right. Your best bet is to hopefully try and get in maybe as an assistant shift or shift somewhere.
Right.
But a good chance you're filling out applications as a floor, knowing that you can move back up. It's no big deal. A lot of floors, if they go somewhere else, as a dealer.
Right.
And then just move their way back up. So
if you're a dealer, you got nothing to worry about.
Yeah.
I mean,
you really. And the thing is, that's the other great thing about this industry too. Is if you're a shift manager at a property that gets sold, and they're probably going to bring in their own shifts or something like that. So you start looking around. You can probably get hired somewhere as a floor, but you also might just say, I'm kind of tired of this. I'm just going to go back to dealing, because dealing is pretty good money.
Yeah.
They'll have the experience to get in somewhere really good. So, it's not that big a deal dropping all the way back down.
Well, not only that, if you're in that shift manager, pit manager kind of area, you're going to know people.
Oh, yeah.
You're going to know people better than the casino managers. The casino manager, they're going to know the dealers and all these people, but not as well as, let's say, the shift manager or the pit manager is going to know them. And it's a lot about who you know. So they get on the phone, hey, is there any openings for like a floor deal or something? They're going to get scooped up really quick.
Very, very true.
They'll get scooped up real quick.
Okay, so it probably depends on the owner, but when casinos are sold, do the employees usually stay on under the new name owner, just change uniforms, or do the new owners look to rehire on a case-by-case basis? It actually depends. If they're keeping the same name, if nothing changes, if the location never closes, then yeah, if you're like we already said, if you're like basically the floor level or below, and I'm not talking just dealers, porters, valet, restaurant employees, nothing changes.
Right.
Now, if the location closes for a remodel, for instance, like Hard Rock to Virgin, then it's a good question, because one, you're going to be out of work for a fairly long period of time, so you're probably going to look for another job anyway.
Right.
And two, they may or may not decide to hire everybody back. I know Virgin first contacted all the former Hard Rock employees,
right?
But they were under absolutely no obligation to do so, except for maybe cooks and bartenders that might have, I don't even know if Hard Rock's bartenders and cooks were under the union or not, but maybe, depending on the contract for the sale, they may have had to call union workers back first, but for everybody else, no, they chose to, but they absolutely did not have to.
Didn't have to.
But another thing that he mentioned that I don't know if you guys picked up on, if where you work is bought by a company that you already work for as a second job,
Yeah.
now it can get kind of interesting because it
Yeah.
depends on how they have them separated. I used to when I was a restaurant manager, before I became a general manager, I worked for a company that owned, I think, 8 restaurants, all under the same name. They were a franchise. They owned 8 restaurants, and they owned them in 2 states. And in one state, employees could not have 2 jobs at 2 restaurants because they were under the same corporate umbrella. So technically,
Right.
they would have been working 80
Overtime.
hours a week. So
Right.
their second job would have been pure overtime. However, in another state, each one of their restaurants was under a separate LLC.
Is it a franchise?
Parent owned by the same ownership group, but each restaurant, because they had some minority partners that were different for each restaurant, they created their own company. So there, technically, legally, they were separate entities, so employees could work for both. So it would depend on how the companies are set up within their individual casinos. But I actually don't think you can work for the same company 2 different properties. I've not heard of anybody that does that, so they probably don't set them up that way, and I don't see why they would.
No, it runs into overtime unless you do with there's a few places like if you're an extra board that do you work multiple properties.
It's possible.
I know Boyd Gaming does it. Bally's Paris, they do it. Win Encore, they do that. Like I said, Boyd Gaming, meaning if you work downtown, you got to work California, you got to work Fremont, and you got to work Main Street. If you're extra board, you got to work all 3. And then I've also heard of shift managers. Not shift managers, casino manager. One was a casino manager at the Suncoast, 3 days of the week, or two days of the week, and the other half, he was a casino manager at Aliante.
Interesting. Yeah, some places have started doing that where they only have one casino manager running multiple properties.
But it doesn't run into overtime.
Right.
You know what I mean? You're there for those days, and you're there for those days. So.
So yeah, and we're going to move on to the next question. And for the next question, if you're working for an MGM property or a Caesars property or a station property, et cetera, if you transfer to another sister property, do you have to start over or do you keep your seniority? It depends.
Yeah.
It depends. It very, very, very much depends. Some places you can't transfer until most places you can't transfer until you're full time, and if you transfer, then most of the time you transfer into a full-time spot. Some of the companies, like I know Station, I know Boyd, will always have a list up somewhere in the employee area of all the job openings within their company. They'll put if they're full-time or part-time. I mean, if you're moving up, if you're going from a break-in place and trying to go to a major resort, chances are, even if you're full-time, you're not likely going to go in full-time. You're going to go in extra board and have to work your way back
You
up.
gotta start over.
So you have to start over seniority-wise there. Absolutely.
Can I add into that?
Absolutely, because I got nothing else.
It's not just about transferring within the city. You got places out of state too. Harrah's, Boyd's got a Maristar in Kansas City.
I think Boyd is the biggest casino operator in the United States, or second biggest.
They might be. I know the MGM, they have Boston Harbor. Wynn, they have Boston Harbor. Harrah's, Kansas City. Boyd, Maristar in Kansas City. A couple of these places, you can transfer over. I know some of them you can be extra board and transfer over, but you go right back down to the extra board list. And like you said, some of them you may be full time, and you got to go back down to extra board, or you're full time boarding into full time. It all depends on the company.
I actually know we both actually know somebody that transferred within Caesars, actually transferred from one Caesars property to another. And I think she lost all seniority, and not only lost all seniority, she lost the vacation time too. So before she transferred, she had to use up all of her PTO hours.
Well, she came from Kansas City first, or Missouri, or something like that.
I don't think they did. Did
Harrah's,
they do a direct transfer?
They were I don't know if they did the direct transfer, but I know they were at Harrah's beforehand over there, and then came down over here.
Yeah, but I mean, she basically just transferred like across the street. But
Yeah.
lost all seniority. Yeah, she was back down. I mean, even I'm pretty sure it even resets like most places. You work X number of years, you start getting this many weeks of vacation. You hit X number of years, you start getting an extra week of vacation. And I believe when you transfer, you depending on the company, you may lose that. Other companies you won't, but some companies you will.
Right.
So
not everything rolls over.
To answer that question, it depends.
Yeah. It all
Glad we
depends,
can help. Yeah. We'd like to clear that stuff up. We're very, very helpful on these.
Yeah, I know, right? It's like yes and no.
Right.
It's like what?
Next question. Yes and no.
Yes and no. That's for all your questions. Yes and no.
Okay, so his next set of questions deal with geography, Las Vegas geography, of course.
All right.
For $200, Alex. Anyway, he says, I see some strip casinos have an address in Paradise, but it looks like it's Center Strip, so is Paradise technically part of Las Vegas? Depends on how technical you want to get. Technically, if it doesn't say Las Vegas, then no. It's just like any other city, any other major city in the United States, the metropolis is actually multiple cities.
Yeah.
People think Las Vegas, but Las Vegas is
huge.
a very, very small part of actual Las Vegas. Las Vegas has Henderson, Paradise, Summerlin, North Las Vegas, that is technically a separate city.
Yeah.
There's multiple cities. It's kind of like in LA.
Yeah.
In LA, Los Angeles is actually very small. Despite how massive Los Angeles as a city is, the actual technical Los Angeles is very, very small. Then you've got Gardena, Harbor City.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just huge. Some of the strip casinos are technically in Paradise. Although I will say this, some parts of Paradise ain't Paradise. In fact, I would say the majority of it. Once you get off the strip, the majority of Paradise is not what I would consider.
You take
Paradise.
a wrong turn on the strip.
Yeah. Yeah, you're definitely not in Paradise either.
Yeah.
Then he asked, what about Henderson and Summerlin? Paradise, Henderson, Summerlin, they are separate. They're separate cities.
All coming together.
Exactly. Phoenix. I'll use Phoenix as an example. I used to live in Phoenix. I actually lived in Tempe, and I worked in Tempe. I also worked in Peoria. I also worked in they call it Metro, or Mesa. I'm sorry. I worked in Mesa. I actually never technically worked in Phoenix. That's his question. Are they separate cities or part of Las Vegas? So, again, yes and no. If you look at Las Vegas as, what you see on a map saying Las Vegas, then yeah, it's all part of Las Vegas, just like Gardena and all that is all part of LA.
Right.
Just like Tempe is part of Phoenix. But if you want to get technical, then no. So,
yes and no.
yeah, yes and no.
Yes and no.
But technically, no. I mean, in reality, no. They're separate cities, just like any other major city. So, and it looks like that is everything that Jeff had for us.
That's all you got, Jeff? What the heck, man?
That's it.
That's all you got?
That's only like a dozen questions.
Yeah, man.
A lot of questions.
Come with the heat.
Yeah, send us something difficult, so we can answer yes and no.
Yes and no. Yeah.
Yeah, I've got nothing else.
I got nothing to add. Yeah, nothing else to add, really. That's about it.
Yes and no. Good talk.
Ooh, interesting. Just a side note, I had a lot of coffee today. It's so much.
Thank you, everybody, for the coffee.
Thank you.
And, we will catch you guys next time. Thanks for tuning in. Bye now. So, as I promised, I wanted to go over very briefly our upcoming attempts at a third test live stream. So what's happened so far? The first test live stream just flat didn't work. The problem that I had was was an equipment problem. I had an equipment problem in that the equipment that I was using to translate the camera into streamable video to the computer required a better USB port than the computer I was using at the time. So that one just flat failed because it would not translate into the computer. The computer would not pick it up, would not read it, so I wasn't able to live stream it. So then as I was looking through, because I'm a little bit of a tech head, as I was looking through all of my other stuff, because I do have 4 laptops here and 3 computers, I did find one that actually did have the newer style USB port. Unfortunately, it was actually my oldest laptop, but I figured, what the heck, let me give it a shot. What's the worst that can happen? And this time around, when I fired everything up, the video was actually translating onto the computer, so things were looking better. But then when I attempted to live stream, the computer was not powerful enough to be able to translate it and then upload it sufficiently. So it basically just uploaded a blank screen for the live stream. So what I am going to have to do is, and I'm already looking into all of my options, I'm going to upgrade my computer so I can add, what, a 7th, 8th computer to my household. And I'm going to go much, much higher, and I'm going to get a computer that is far more than I need for this, far, far, far more powerful than I need for this. That way, any future upgrades that I may do, the computer will be able to handle it. So unfortunately, this computer is going to cost me about 25% more, about 25% of what I've already laid out in all the equipment for this channel. So it wasn't something I could just instantly buy. I'm probably looking at Black Friday or Cyber Monday. So hopefully I have it within the next couple of weeks, and then I'll do another test live stream and see if I can go from there. So I will definitely do at least one weekly live stream on our Patreon, because they're the ones that are really helping us get this computer. And the other equipment that I'm going to get, because I figure if I'm buying the computer, I might as well buy the most high-end capture cards and things along those lines, get everything as good as possible, and then hopefully eventually get a better microphone for you guys. So yeah, that's where we stand on the live stream. As soon as I have the computer and I do the test, which will be in a few weeks, like I said, I've got to order it in a week or two, then I have to wait for it to ship. Plus we have probably the biggest event of the year coming up, the NFR National Finals Rodeo. So I'm basically working 2 weeks straight, as is my wife. So not going to have a whole lot of time. But once we get all that under control, then we'll figure out. There's been some schedule changes to myself, some schedule changes to my wife, and some upcoming schedule changes to my wife as well. So hopefully we can get all the scheduling figured out, so I know when I'll be able to live stream as well. My initial plan of Thursdays at 6 o'clock is already out the window. I'm at work at that point now. So we will get it all figured out, and we will let you guys know, I promise. And otherwise, I hope you guys have found this interesting, enlightening, illuminating, or at least just plain fun. And we will catch you guys next time. Bye now.